Hello, fellow degenerates, and welcome to another episode of Overexplained, the show where I show you my Diamond to Masters adventures as I attempt vainly to climb the SL ladder and showcase and explain basically what I'm doing as a tank and what exactly it is I'm looking for, hence the name Overexplained. Today we're going to be playing Stitches, and the build we are going to be opting for is going to be Patchwork Creation into Vile Cleaver. I'm not sure if I took Putrefaction or Serrated Edge at 7, so we'll get into that in a second. Level 10 we're going to be going for Gorge, 13 Meat Hook, 16 we're going to be going for Pulverize, and level 20 should we get there we're going to be looking for Master Hooker or potentially Gas Bag should I feel the need for an escape. Now right here at the level 1 we are looking for a hook right away, so I am going to play slightly out of vision and I'm going to try to predict where I think the enemy heroes might be based off of the limited information I can gather right here. Now I did look for the Phoenix right there as opposed to the Tyrael. I could have grabbed the Tyrael easily, but there's no point because he's going to escape quite quickly. So when I am looking for a hook, I want to specifically find a backline target if at all possible. I was very disappointed in myself in that I wasted a slam pretty much on the enemy heroes instead of using it on the wave. Had I used it on the wave, it would have been a lot smarter because I would have sped up our rotation out of here by quite a bit. I did look for a short hook on the Tyrael right there on the off chance my Dahaka was able to follow up with a tongue. He was unable to do so, so we don't end up finding anything from that, but not much lost. Right here, a smart move would have been to keep those 3 ranged minions alive long enough for me to get that second globe, but I do see an opportunity for a hook here, so we are going to pull the enemy Phoenix over, find a good bit of damage trade. I've lost some HP, so I'm going to pop an E on a ranged minion. It's worth noting that your E does an enormous amount of damage to non-heroic units, so you can use that to break things, for example like the Rhaegar totem, which is so prevalent nowadays. I do get a lovely pull onto the Tychus right there, and you can see I predicted that the Tychus would stray into the upper direction as opposed to the downwards direction, and basically I'm playing at an MMR where people are playing on the zone 2. So I previously mentioned zones 1, 2, and 3. Zone 1, you are not aware of the things you can see. Zone 2, you are aware of the things you can see, and zone 3, you are aware of things you cannot see. So zone 2 is basically if the opponents recognize that you are trying to hook, they will sidestep in order to avoid the hook. So what you do is you actually aim for the sidestep instead of aiming for where the person actually is supposed to be. So as you play heroes like Stitches that have hooks or teleportation abilities that can reposition the enemy heroes, and right there I just missed by a millimeter onto that Phoenix. I was so disappointed by that. Still trying to get used to the length of the hook. I'm not much of a Stitches player, but that has rapidly been changing quite recently. And it's important for you to note that when you are playing at zone 2, you will come across players playing one zone higher or lower than you, and because of that you will mess up. It's very much like rock paper scissors, right? It's the rock paper scissors system is like zone 1, 2, and 3. If you're playing too far away from the enemy, you'll just do a lap again and you'll accidentally beat yourself. This is a very messy fight. Don't worry about what's going on here. The most important thing is for us to get out safely and get a little bit of free damage onto this wall. There's not much opportunity for a hook here. I did waste mine just a little bit ago, and there is a 5-man grouped here, so I don't really want to take the fight. We're just going to look to back on out, and right here if I can find something on the upper side I would have looked for it, but I was in vision, and while I'm in vision I really don't like to hook because that moves players directly to zone 2. I find a lovely hook here on the Phoenix, but unfortunately the Junkrat did not have the foresight to put a trap down in this area, so I wasn't able to use one of those traps to stand beside the trap and then basically hook something into the trap directly. He probably had it on CD as we just had a team fight, so it's likely that he didn't have the ability available as it's not yet 13, so he's not going to have double traps quite yet. But later on in the game we are going to synergize quite fantastically with this Junkrat. We're able to find quite a few follow-ups onto the W boop as well as the trap right here. As you can see right here, I'm looking for a pull onto the trap and I'm going to find it beautifully onto the Tychus. Would have hit the Phoenix I think if that missed. A little bit of a blind hook, a little bit of luck, but that's all you really need on Stitches in order to ensure some good hooks happen. Right here we're going to look for the turn in with that kill. Fantastic stuff right here. We get our 22 gems turned in, and then I'm simply going to go into the top wave and look to clear this out. It's more advantageous for me right now to clear waves and try to speed up my team's position on the map than it is for me to look for additional kills, because after you get one kill you don't really need multiple kills in order to achieve much. You're not actually going to gain much from getting more kills besides a little bit of stagger time. The opponent was going to be useless for that amount of time anyway just because they were a man down, so it's usually kind of overkill. Right here I do try to find a position where I can pull somebody onto this trap, but unable to find it I opt to just not hook at all. I do throw a little bit of an unlucky hook right there. I was in vision, so my opponents are going to be playing in zone 2, so I aim for the juke, but the opponent simply juked backwards out of the length of the hook rather than trying to juke to the side, which I had predicted. Right here we have the Web Weaver spawn, fantastic stuff, and we are picking up the Serrated Edge at level 7, so that's going to be an additional 4-second cooldown reduction should I hit an enemy hero with my hook, as well as a little bit of mana restoration. I do find a beautiful hook right there onto the Stukov that would have hit had he not silenced me. So it was a good reaction by the enemy Stukov right there, fantastic stuff by him. My Junkrat is just barely getting away from this Tyrael over here. I'm going to slow this Tyrael with my W. Had I had a hook, I would have pulled him into that trap right there to guarantee we get the kill, but we find the kill either way. I have an absolutely microscopic hook there to use just to ensure that the Tyrael dies and to use it as a short sort of stun. It's worth noting that the hook does stun targets, so for the duration of while they're hooked and being pulled, they have no ability to press buttons or to teleport or to escape or any of that jazz, right? And sometimes you will need to use that to interrupt major abilities on your opponent's side. Sometimes you can use that to interrupt a Diablo who's attacking your teammate, for example. He'll look for the QEQ, so the shadow charge into the overpower behind him, flip, and then another charge. Lovely stuff by the Hans right there, finding a beautiful scatter to finish off that target from 30 miles away. Fantastic stuff. And right here I was looking for a helping hand. So the helping hand allows you to use hook to hit allied heroes, and if you can hit heroes in this way, you reduce the cooldown of hook by 8 seconds, so down to 8 seconds. Lovely stuff right there. I was looking for an allied hook in order to help my team out. Right here I do hit level 10. I'm going to snap pick Gorge, and I'm going to take this target all the way over to the right. I didn't have quite the time to take him over to the trap because I didn't have my trait Shambling Horde that increases my move speed to 110% and gives me a small amount of immunity to slow. So a fantastic activatable that just came recently in the Stitches rework, making him very, very powerful. Giving him innate move speed is a very scary thing to do because this tank's biggest problem was he didn't have an escape or a panic button. Right there I was looking for a hook onto the Tyrael to pull him into the trap, but again a little bit too slow on my reaction time, and I do believe somebody woke him up, which means the Tyrael is able to escape from the CC. We are getting a fantastic result right here. As we can see, we're getting a really, really good amount of value on the map. We're preventing the enemy team from getting too much value with their turn-in. Right here, I am looking for a friendly hook onto the Dahaka, but I end up pulling the Tyrael away. Good enough, kind of achieves the same thing of keeping the Dahaka alive, so I don't mind too much. Fantastic Riptire right there to clear out the wave, ensure less value is possible for the enemy team. And then right here, we're just going to press our D button and run for our lives. Unfortunately, right there, the Phoenix actually collides with the small wall, so he doesn't get pulled into the trap, and I'm unable to find the kill right there. Very, very unfortunate that happened, but hey, now I know for next time, beware the small walls. They can be extremely misleading in their hitbox. Right here, we are going to step up very aggressively. The only reason I'm allowed to step up this aggressively, despite the fact that I'm missing so much HP, is because this Ana is right beside me supporting me, and because the enemy team is quite scared of my hook. So the pressure being applied from the enemy team being afraid is what is preventing them from simply running me over. Were the entire enemy team to simply charge me right here, I would most certainly die, but they're not very aware of that because I've been playing so cagey, so back and forth, and because my hooks have been landing for the most part. Right here, we have to play very careful. If the Leoric is to entomb us, we are going to die instantly. There's no way for me to protect myself if I get hit by the entomb, but I can help my team if they get hit. Right there, I look for a lucky hook onto the Stukov, don't quite find it, just a little bit short. And right here, we're going to find the turn-in on the Leoric, is going to find the interrupt versus us. Good play by him, good awareness. Right here, I was very worried that the enemy team were going to find a significant turn-in on the top side, as they are at 41 gems out of 55. If the Leoric is to turn in, or the Phoenix plus the Tyrael or Stukov, they will instantly get the turn in, but they're not actually looking for it, so I'm able to simply wander back and forth, clear some waves, and then I'm going to rush back to the top side right here, see if anybody is turning in. Nope, they were actually on the Bruiser camp, which explains why they were missing for so long. Here we're going to step up. I was debating hooking there between the fountain and the fort. You are quite likely to find picks there, but I opted not to because I didn't want to just hit the bruisers for no reason and lose the pressure of having the hook available. So again, important things to keep in mind when you are playing Stitches. Number one, are you pre-13? So do you have the short hook or the long hook? Once you hit 13, you get a 40% range extension. That is very significant in increasing your chances of getting a pick from significant distance, which is going to increase the value of your hook. I'm going to pop my D key right here because that is my panic button. I find myself mispositioned. The enemy team was taking advantage of that. I am looking for a Gorge right here on the enemy team on anything I can hit. I find the Tyrael, that's not an opportune target, but you know what? It's not going to matter because we're going to get the bounce from the Junkrat to pop him right into the fort, and the amount of damage he takes right there is just purely lethal. Now, I do have the advantage of the 13 hook, so I am going to look for this Stukov, and because there's nowhere for him to dodge, thanks to this little bit of terrain right here, I can ensure that the hook hits 100% of the time. That's one thing you really want to take advantage of when you're hooking on Stitches, is little pieces of terrain where the opponent just can't move anywhere, because that's going to reduce their mobility infinity upwards or downwards, which basically takes the odds down from like rolling a dice to flipping a coin, right? If you had the choice between rolling a dice and one out of the 6 sides is going to succeed versus flipping a coin and one of the 2 sides is going to succeed, obviously you'd rather flip the coin because the chances are much better for you. And that's effectively what you're doing when you're hooking in a situation where your opponent has very, very limited mobility. Instead of rolling the dice, you're flipping a coin, and that makes it significantly easier. I hope that analogy makes sense. It was very wordy and unnecessary, but when I record things off the top of my head, I sometimes ramble in order to fill the space. By the way, subscribe to the channel. Reloading forward here, I do end up getting entombed, so I'm going to pop my D key so I can get some armor off of my level 1 talent just to keep me alive. As I note that the Tychus is nowhere nearby, we're going to pop our Unstoppable at the same time as a Judgment colliding, and then we're going to grab the Stukov, and he's just going to deport us into the bottom keep, and we're going to die in a very unfortunate way, dropping a lot of gems, over 20, I believe 29 gems were lost right there, so fantastic play by the enemy Stukov. He absolutely outplayed me there. I should not have gorged him. I should have aimed for literally anything else, or I should have positioned him to the side so that he wasn't able to easily find that massive shove onto me. I will try to keep that in mind the next time I play against Stukov. That hero is fantastic at disabling plays like this. My team is just barely able to get out of dodge right towards the tail end. We do end up losing the Hanzo, and we end up losing the Dahaka at the very, very tail end of this fight, but it's not the end of the world because the enemy team isn't going to be able to do much with it. They don't have the gems for a turn, and they only have 18 gems, and they require 60, and we are finding a good trade on the enemy Phoenix, who I just barely missed, so I really overestimated the length of my hook. But it is worth noting that if I had taken the time to step forward here and get in position such that the hook was guaranteed to hit, the Phoenix would have woken up naturally due to this grenade coming from the Junkrat, and he would have been able to walk away. So I don't think this hook was ever going to hit. Then he walks into a trap, and I feel like an idiot. So, retrospect, I definitely could have played that better had I recognized that there was a trap on the ground there. Right here, I'm just trying to scare the enemy team by showing, hey, this is where I exist, this is where my body is, you can get hooked from this direction, so play back. So we can see the position on the enemy team right here. They're rotating a little bit safe, and then they end up rotating the dangerous way. The Tychus ends up checking right here, and I do believe I didn't quite scout that correctly. I see the Tyrael going right here. The second he takes his Q, I am going to gorge him. If he takes his Q, I gorge him. Because if he uses his Q in an aggressive manner, he's not going to have it to protect himself. And he's not going to be able to teleport back out, which is going to ensure that I get the kill on him. I can't engage on the Tyrael unless he's used his Q already, because he's just going to leave otherwise. Right? So we want to play around that as much as possible. And then we want to just be aware, are we in zone 1 or zone 2? Can the enemy see us? Can they not see us? How aware are they of the hook? And where are they likely to be based on their rotations and where they may or may not be missing on the map? That sounds like a lot of things, but Heroes of the Storm is a game about doing a lot of small things at the same time. That's why players like Fan are so fantastic to watch, because he's constantly doing 100 or 1,000 little things that he's learned with experience over time that you perhaps never even thought of. And that's one of the fantastic things about watching players like himself, is you get to learn those things a piece at a time. And that's one of the fun things about climbing in SL as well, is you get to constantly pick up information. You will note the difference between players who play a lot versus players who play smart. The players who play smart are the ones who are constantly picking up new information and keeping it in mind, as opposed to just grinding games over and over and over again and just not thinking about it the whole time. If you're able to do both, grind games as well as learn a lot, then you're going to be an absolute legend. Right here, we are going to be looking for a hook onto the enemy team. Looking for a hook, obviously I'm a Stitches, that's what I do. I aim it in such a way that it misses the bruiser camp, so that if someone were below the bruiser camp, I was able to find them. I know I'm not going to be able to find a hook for the next little while here, because the enemy team is going to back off after the bruiser camp is captured, so I throw one random one out there. But it's pretty much okay, because at the tail end over here, we're going to find another one. It does get intercepted by that bruiser, else it would have hit a target, but unfortunately, I don't get quite what I was looking for. And I do believe I just missed some of the action, so we're just going to back up to focus a little bit on what just happened. I do believe the Tyrael threw a Q at me and instantly took it, so I snap gorged him and immediately ran under my towers. It actually happened so fast in game that I barely even noticed I did it as I was doing it, which was interesting. I'm going to back one more time just to fix this error on the ground. So once again, here we are. So that was an attempt to hook something onto the trap. Wasn't quite able to find anything. That's okay. And then right here we are 17 to our opponent's 16, and we have the spell armor from the mage camp giving us 20 spell armor as long as we are standing in that aura, which is very, very beneficial for us. It's going to make us quite a bit tankier, make it easier for us to take a fight, and give us just an amount of safety. I do try to find the hook there, not quite able to, and right here you can see the Tyrael queued right into my face. I know he had the intent to teleport back immediately because he has Sword of Justice, which is essentially Zeratil's wormhole, but we're not going to give him that opportunity. We're going to pop him in here, and he's going to get CC'd, exploded, and he's going to promptly die. Now we have a numbers advantage versus the enemy team. Beautiful. All we need is this one kill in order to make things happen. And now we're going to find additional kills thanks to the initial kill that happens right there. We're going to find a little bit more spacing onto the enemy team, a little bit of damage, a little bit of chunk. We've denied them their ability to turn in. They do have 38 gems right now, which is exactly how much they need to find a turn in. But what instead is going to happen is we are going to turn in, and we are going to tag the boss at the same time. I'll just fast forward because there's not too much interesting stuff going on here. The only thing worth noting here is that I was looking for angles based off of where these two traps were in order to pull somebody in, but the enemy team is playing intelligently. They're not just YOLOing into us, so we're not able to find that much value. Going to just fast forward on here. So this was a position where I was actively looking for a hook on the enemy Tyrael's rotation. So I'm just predicting where he's going, predicting where he's going, predicting where he's going. And you can see the Ana and I both look for the exact same prediction right there. But what ends up happening is the Tyrael pops his judgment onto the Ana in an attempt to find a fight before the enemy team arrives towards us. However, I'm going to snap gorge him because he is without the rest of his team, and we're able to easily clean him up with that 16 pulverize, slowing him by 70% for 0.75 seconds, which allows my team to follow up and kill him. Were either of these gates down here, I would have been able to hook and find an enemy hero, but I'm not quite able to do so due to these gates being up. I do tend to look for it, but then there's a minion wave and that just ruins it again. So what I end up doing is I walk all the way into the deep side here, and as long as I don't attack an enemy hero or deal damage to them, this keep is not going to attack me. So I can position right here very, very aggressively into the enemy Tychus, and it should be just okay. So we are going to finish here, and I do want to look for the core right here. So what I'm going to do at level 20 is I'm actually going to select gas bag. So that's going to reduce the CD of my D by 20 seconds, but more importantly, it's going to grant me a 3-second unstoppable, and I'm going to get just a little bit of armor to keep myself tanky while I'm looking to slowly punch down this core. We can see we have the boss on it, we have a catapult on it, we have quite a bit of damage, and the most important thing for me in this situation is to ensure that I'm able to focus the core after this fight occurs. So what I do right here, I just abandon my team entirely, and I'm just going to charge into the core and start auto-attacking because I see it's at 59%. And I'm pretty much of the opinion that we can just end. I don't quite remember if that guess proved to be correct or not. We might end up all dying here, or we might finish the core. Even I'm not sure what's going on here. This is very tense. 49% on the enemy core. I'm going to pop my D again, so thank you, level 20 talent. Right here, I should have looked for a friendly hook onto the Ana to pull her out, and in retrospect, really should have done that. Instead of aiming for that Tyrael right there, Ana's going to die as a result of that mistake. And I do believe I end up going core here with this minion wave while the enemy team is distracted by the Dahaka. So a little bit of a cheeky play right here. We're going to find a fantastic aid. Thanks to this catapult on the bottom side, we're able to secure the core. Fantastic stuff. I actually didn't remember that happened. GG guys, thank you for watching, take care, and we will see you in the Nexus.